To answer your question as to who were the folks living in Sunset Park when I was growing up, for the most part it was Caribbean, Puerto Rican at that time. So growing up, it was common to hear a lot of salsa music, people blasting their boomboxes, dancing out in the streets during block parties. So that to me was my neighborhood. So I felt that I was more Caribbean than Mexican American, if you will, because that's what I was familiar with. Yeah, there certainly was tension between the so-called old and new Latino immigrants here in Sunset Park. I saw it, it was very visible in the school. They were kids from the Caribbean, from Puerto Rico, who would mock other students who dressed differently or spoke Spanish differently or English differently. And you know, it was an alienating moment for me and others who were not from Puerto Rico, so we tried our best to fit in. So we tried our best to, you know, speak the kind of Spanish that they spoke, or be familiar with the music that they listened to. And one of my earliest memories growing up here in Sunset Park was coming back from pre-K from the school at St. Michael's with my dad at hand, and a few steps away from my apartment complex, a few blocks away from here on 34th, we were stopped by immigration agents that were just a few steps away from my home, walking out from an apartment complex, and stopped my dad and asked them for identification papers, and he was perplexed because they were not, they were dressed like you and I, and he refused to give them any kind of paperwork, and then they identified themselves as immigration authorities, and at that time I obviously didn't know what that meant. So they pressured my dad to come into the apartment complex. They walked in and handcuffed my father and two uncles who were taking care of my youngest sister, who at that time was no more than about 5 months old. She was on the sofa, faced up. So never mind that my sister was not in a cradle and couldn't fall in on the sofa. It was fine for my father and my two uncles to be handcuffed, and I was watching this. I was frozen, and I didn't know what to do. So my dad made it very clear. He mentioned to me, son, you know, just stand there, make sure that your sister's fine, look out for her, and he commented to the authorities, you know, hey, we're not criminals. And they didn't care. They just called their supervisor, asked them, what do we do with these folks who have kids, particularly this father, and the supervisor told them, well, bring the two brothers, leave the father with the kids, right? So then, you know, that to me is a memory that's been etched since early on, and it has haunted me since that very day, and that's what motivates the work that I do as a scholar who is interested in issues of immigration rights and to learn about the complex history of immigration and racial formation here in this country. I link the personal to the scholarship that I do, and my commitment to this work and the amount of hours that I dedicate to this work is also inspired by the hard work that my parents do.